All right, ready?
Yeah.
The exhaust system is going to bloopers on this one. Hey guys, this is Daniel with TLC 4x4, and behind me I got this beautiful 1997 FZJ80. This customer came to us looking for a vehicle that looks like it just rolled out of the 90s. That was his only stipulation on this build. From there, we started searching for a donor truck for this client. We were able to locate this truck locally. Originally, the truck was in California most of his life and owned by one family. That family ended up moving to North Carolina, and after their kids have outgrown this truck, they sold it to us. Once we got the truck in our hands, the truck was already super clean. It was always serviced by same Toyota dealership all his life, so mechanically the truck was super nice. But with all our full frame restorations, we take the entire truck apart. The body was sent out to get sandblasted. The frame, axles, and all the suspension pieces were sent out to get powder coated. And from there, we started body working it and building the truck. Starting with the exterior, we finished this truck in Imperial Jade Green, and we did the flares in the bottom of the truck in Mystic Gold. That gave it that 90s look. The customer wanted the early 80s grille, so we backdated the front grille to the early 80s grille. All the headlights, taillights, everything remained factory, but it was all upgraded with LED. We wanted this truck to look factory and OEM as possible, but that doesn't mean that we reused all the old parts. Everything on this truck is either brand new or restored. For the wheels and tires, we went with these 90s retro wheels, and then we wrapped it with 33-inch Kenda tires. We retained the factory side steps. They were just taken apart, sandblasted, cleaned, and restored. We also retained the factory roof rack and the factory hatch spoiler, giving it that OEM factory look. Back of the truck is pretty much all factory, factory emblems, factory taillights. The only thing that was added is a backup camera, and then we decided to keep the spare tire in a factory location, so the spare tire is tucked underneath the truck. Each of our frame-off restorations has a special plaque that's located inside the engine bay. That plaque has our TLC logo on it and also has a number representing the truck. Moving on to the engine, we have our LS3 Connect and Cruise package with our 4L65 transmission. We have retained the factory ABS braking system in this truck. So all of those components are brand new, from the sensors to the lines to the ABS module to the master cylinder booster and so on. We do our custom in-house built intake system. You might have noticed in our 60 and 62 series trucks, we run our aluminum radiator. With these FZJ80s, they came with such a big radiator that we can reuse the Toyota OEM radiator. The only thing we do as far as modification is build a custom shroud with an electric fan. Also, with our computer system in this truck, we ran it right here on the fender well for easier access. It's got a custom cover over it, so it's not in your face. There's also a lot of small details that you might not notice in this truck, like our hose clamps that we take our time to cover with heat shrink so they don't stand out. Our AC lines are all custom made and crimped in-house, so that way we can determine the lengths and we can hide a lot of those AC lines. Fuel lines, we run a push lock system, so we can hide those lines through the frame and up to the engine bay. All of our frames get disassembled fully to the bare bones. From there, we weld in the LS mounts, and then from there it's sent to our powder coater facility. What they will do is they will sandblast the entire frame, then they will zinc chromate prime it and then powder coat it, which gives it an extra step of durability. We take the same steps on our axles that we take with our frames. We disassemble them completely. The axle housings are then degreased and pressure washed. Then they're sent to our powder coating facility where they will sandblast the exterior of the axles. Then they will zinc chromate prime them and powder coat them. Once we get the axles back to our facility, we will degrease them again and wash the interior out, and then the assembly process will begin. Once the axles are all completed, then we'll start the suspension, frame, and axle assembly all together. On this build, we're running OME springs and Fox shocks. We have found out that this combination of two works the best for these trucks. Normally what we do, we pre-build our chassis fully, so that includes axle, suspension, motor, transmission, transfer case. Everything is bolted in, torqued in place before we even set the body on top. For our exhaust system, we're running a GM catalytic converters up front. From there, we built a full stainless steel exhaust. This exhaust was 3D scanned and then CNC mandrel bent, giving us a uniform smooth pipe all the way out back with no weld joints. As far as our brake system, we're running DBA rotors and pads on this truck. The calipers are factory Toyota FZJ80 calipers, front and rear. They're just brand new OEM units from Toyota. As far as the interior, it all appears stock. The dash pad and the lower part of the dash was all dyed to match the leather color that the customer chose. He wanted this very light tan color with a plaid insert. The gauges are OEM gauges that we send to a company that will recalibrate them for an LS motor. We did run a cruise control in this truck, so we were able to figure out the LS motor with the cruise control. We're running a JVC head unit with a backup camera. The door panels appear very factory, but they're not. We start with a scratch-built door panel, and then we reuse some of the FZJ80 components, and then other components are rewrapped in leather. All the interior plastic panels are wrapped in leather to match the seats. For our headliner, we're using a factory headliner that was stripped down and covered with Alcantara. And then for our visors, we're using our Icon 4x4 visors. The customer wanted to keep the third row in this truck, so we restored the third row, so it's available if you ever need to use the third row seating as well. As far as the stereo system in this truck, we're running Kicker KX series. We were able to do something different with this one. We're able to put a subwoofer in here and an amplifier, so there's actually a small enclosure in there for our 8-inch subwoofer and an amplifier. We were able to reuse the factory panels and then just make a provision for the grille. So there's a big issue with 80s, 60s, 62s. They all have that offset console that's really good for nothing. So what we did is we kind of searched around and found a console that will fit this truck, modified it and made it work. This console has 2 cup holders and USB plugs inside of it. It solves our issue with the FZJ80 stock console. When we first posted pictures of this interior, I had a lot of questions of people asking me what kind of console this is. So we figured we'd do a little contest. The first person that guesses what vehicle this console came out of will get a free TLC t-shirt. Comment below with your guess. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoy watching our videos, please like and subscribe to our page.